Hey everybody, how's it going? Um, Happy Canada Day and 4th of July. I know this is a big weekend, so I'm not going to stay on that long, but I did promise I would come on here as of last week, and it's been a while. So today I'm just talking about kind of this game changer in terms of local media, and a lot of you on the group are going into your summers and wondering, how am I going to keep this momentum, right? Summer, a lot of the time, is that time where the things start to lag a little bit. But if you want to stay top of mind during this period, you got to think of how basically your hometown, local sources and even local influencers, and what they mean now versus maybe what they meant pre-COVID when this all started. And I want you to take a moment and think about if that's changed for you. In addition to a lot of the homegrown support and rallying around these latest causes and these shifts in thinking, I want you to think about, if your message has taken a turn and if your message has actually started to mean something else. A lot of the time, what these things do is they put things into perspective really, really fast. So either your message becomes really moot and, non-essential, but you want to move that into becoming essential, right? How do you become essential in your hometown media? I think that's what we're going to really chat about today. I won't be on long, but I'm hoping, if I can get this studio going up, that, there will be chats, and that eventually if someone jumps in and kind of asks a couple questions. I know I didn't promote this event a lot, but that's okay. I kind of rely on the replay. But if there are questions that come up in chat and you have one, for example, hey Amanda, I'm, my background is law, but I've never known how to approach a paper because they don't just, give away stories about lawyers. How do I even come across as helpful to my local paper? Or, hey, Amanda, I'm in another different, you might be in another field or expertise or a therapist or anything that you would wish to, maybe you want like a syndicated, do syndicated columns still exist? I've been fortunate to get my columns, my clients syndicated columns in local paper, and their competitors who are paying for ads are going, what the heck? Hey, almost like, what's he doing here? What's she doing here? We're paying for this space. That's when you're really on the money with your message, in that it's actually something that these local editors want to hear. Now, first off the bat, I'm talking to local news, and we all know what's happening in the local media. It's shrinking. It's shrinking. It's okay, because as news becomes more segmented, it just means you have to do a better job of remaining super hyper local and super hyper vigilant with your message. So that's all it means. It doesn't mean there's no space anymore for good quality news. There is space, but the reporters may need a little more of your help to get those stories going. There's less staff as well. That's an obvious observation, right, in the last few years. But the thing they really appreciate is someone that's going to help them craft a really, rich story and keep the paper around and actually have stories of interest that local people want to read. How many of you picked up your local paper or any, your local rag dropped on your newspaper since you've been home, or you're driving around, maybe you're not commuting and you're tuning into your local news station or your local radio station. That is all possibilities that you as an expert have to keep in mind, and there are ways to do it. So I'm going to cover just a few things today, and we'll start with this whole sense of hometown PR, and that's what we're talking about today. The first thing I want you to do is actually think about the outlets or the sources that are available in your community right now. The sources available in your community could be anything from an online .com newspaper source, right? Or something that's gone from paper to online, or something that's both available digitally and in paper, in front of people's face. And the other sources are sometimes radio news. They also have, and although it's really interesting with the whole hometown radio stations. There's not a lot of segments for news, but there's ways to get into those very short news bursts they get in there. Normally they're just ripping from a feed and they're not a interview style format, but there's ways to kind of get your message in there, or get an interview, actually get your voice on the radio. So think about the outlets that your town or your city has. And first thing is, pick it up and read it. Listen to what's going on. Listen to maybe radio at different times in the morning. Hear the different segments they have coming on. A lot of the time on radio they repeat. A lot of the time they have local homegrown, business profiles, especially during COVID. They're wanting to help local business as well. So they want business to help them with advertising, of course, and it's a give and take sometimes. Today I'm talking about more traditional, the more traditional earned, like give them a story they're going to want to hear. So aside from those other things I already covered, the outlets are something you're going to want to take a look at and read. When you're reading these stories, right, by these journalists, in your hometown reg, or your, what's happening in your backyard, just kind of see if you can place yourself in there. Even anything online, even if there's a local hometown podcast, see if you can hear yourself in that outlet or that media person or that interview, and see if they are actually going to be something and be an outlet that you want to be featured in. So what I'm talking about here is matching up with a fit for what your business does and what the outlet is trying to convey, or who they portray most, or what kind of stories do they usually tell. Are they usually telling like success stories and celebrating hometown heroes, overcoming hardship? Are they usually telling really hard factual things? Like, are they actually using a lot of statistics? Is that what they like to see? So it's really about getting familiar and not going into these pitches and just calling up the paper and thinking they're going to be interested just because you've been working at this business for so long, or just because it's family run, or just because. Don't assume that they need to hear from you. You have to really go with how they're structuring their outlet. So do a lot of just read a couple things, right? And see if the articles and the way they do their online articles make sense. The second thing is I want you to read the titles and the things they're covering. And what you can ask yourself is, what's missing? So if you read your hometown papers, and a lot of the time they're covering just let's say they're covering a lot of the doomsday stuff. Let's say that you've noticed a pattern where all they're talking about is COVID or what have you. You're going to want to switch that a bit and offer them something enticing, like a new spin on this. Like, hey, I've actually got a cool story of hope here. I've been able to help this one client, or I've got a story of hope. We're bouncing back when a lot of our competitors are closing, and we'd love to tell you the story of how that's happening and how our customers who are from this town are helping us do that. Very cool spin on something. The other thing you want to look for in titles is, if they're covering one aspect of something. If you're in healthcare, for example, and they keep covering stories around this, maybe there's an issue in the hospital, let's say, but they're missing a key component of the story, or you're an expert in a related field and there's really a perspective they haven't covered yet. You could offer this as a way to expand on how they're telling the story, because something really important is they want your perspective. And because this group is about experts, I want you to write this down. They need your perspective, right? Not your advice. Let's put it that way. They need your perspective, not your advice. And when you offer perspective, you give what the journalists need, which is a very well-rounded approach to their journalism. And it's a very more humble way of offering them something that will only make the story and only make their outlet more appealing to their readers. The third thing I want to chat about real quick is your bio, and what is your story? So yes, they will be interested in, this is a really big one. I get this a lot in questions, Q&As on different various webinars and whatnot. Yes, they're interested. These outlets who you might be approaching, they're interested in the fact that you're successful, let's say, or that you've been in business for 15 years. That's great, but they're not just there to celebrate your success. Um, I think what this is about is giving your part of the story. So instead of giving them an advertisement that kind of says, "Hey, I've been in this business so long, and we've done really well. We're a top employer. I've employed 25 people in this town, and therefore you should interview me." Probably the wrong way to approach this. What you want to do is share your story. So take a step back and remember all the way back to why you started in business in the first place, why you chose to live where you live. That could be a very interesting piece of the puzzle, not a story, in itself, but it could be an interesting piece of the puzzle that is going to give that person, meaning you, the expert, a little bit of depth, and it's going to relate right back to that hometown, that region, that place, right? I chose to move here. All my family was in BC. I made the trek because I heard that this was a hot spot for bagels or whatever, like whatever the anecdote is. Include part of your story in your bio, but don't make your bio all about the story. You can write that down as well. You can include part of your story in your bio, meaning, who are you, which they're going to ask. Who are you and why should I speak to you? But don't make it all about your story. And you're giving them 3 paragraphs now of your journey and what this has meant to you. You need to get to the meat, right? So the bio for what we're doing in this group is understanding very clearly where your niche is and where you can help them fill the gaps. So once you've told a little backstory of why it's important that this is a local story to you, then quickly get into your bio, which is all the expert stuff, all of the all the good stuff, and I've done this, and I have my degree in this, and I have 10 years experience working with people in this area, and I found that these statistics apply to this region. Then you got to really give the goods. So that's what that is about. One more thing is the fact that, and this is probably the number one thing that most people don't get when they go to approach their local media, when they go to approach these people that are kind of already pressed to put something really good together, keep this thing going, is that they treat it like an ad. So just be aware that if you do have a conversation or if you do have an email exchange with someone at your paper or the press in your local area, that they may inquire about your contact info, but don't give them all of your email. They're not going to, in the article, sit there and post your website, your cell phone, your email address, your Twitter feed, your Instagram page. For more information, everyone can go here and check out our Instagram. That's not what that's not usually where the local media, that's not their job. Then they're sending you to the advertising department. If it starts to sound like an ad, they're going to send you over to the advertising department, and you can do that because then you can say anything you want. What you're doing there is you're really giving them an understanding that that their job is to write the news, and it's not to advertise for you. If you go in first with this way of thinking, you're going to have much more success in becoming that hometown kind of PR, not only success story, but you want to become the go-to expert. So I could do a whole other series just on, how to be the go-to person, how to get rebooked for interviews. In fact, I did have in my notes today, and it started turning into 2 different things. So I wanted to cover a little bit of this now, and I might go back to that later. It's really how to become that, to be seen as that expert that an editorial team or a journalist can trust versus someone that's just in it to get their name in the paper. And yes, while an anniversary could be a good, if it's a slow news day, an anniversary or a very big deal or other milestone is going to be a really good incentive, please try to throw in something else that you're doing on a local level. So this is where collaborations and charities and causes, I'll just put up here, become a very big player in a lot of these local pieces. In fact, it's in your press releases as well. If you're launching something, it's nice to kind of attach yourself sometimes to a cause. And again, like if you were to ask me individually, I might have a different answer for each one of you, depending on if you're a B2B or a B2C. But honestly, local, yes, they love do good. They love feel good. Do they want to hear that you're helping people in your community? Yes, absolutely they do. Is it an excuse for you to kind of come across as the hero and look like you're doing it on purpose? No, we don't want to be using this as a venue to kind of grapple for insincere, kind of community champion initiatives. Now, if it's something annual that you've been doing for 10 years and nobody knows about it, except your local followers and your local circles, then heck yeah, go ahead and tell your local news about that. Hey, we're coming up on a 10-year anniversary of working with this charity. We thought it was a big deal. Put a little, mustard behind it and give it a little fanfare. And that's the last thing that I want to actually bring up here is, this is super important too, guys, is visuals. Okay, visuals. When you're working with a news outlet of any kind, whether you're calling the local TV station especially, or obviously not radio, or you need something that goes along with a really good picture, think about how your story will look in a picture. Think about it. You read stories like this and come across your news feed on your computer every day. There's usually a really good visual that's going to come across here. If you start putting thought into that ahead of time, you might do yourself a service. You're going to find it easier to, give that event a title. You're going to find it easier to find the marketing language about that event. You're going to find it easier to promote. So give your visuals a lot of consideration when even starting to approach some of these hometown places. So that's the really last note. And so there was other people that were asking, I can't remember, something about, is it the right time? It was a timing question. So lastly, 20 minutes, perfect. So lastly, what I wanted to address is this issue of timing and COVID. Think about your message of where it was before COVID and how you were operating in your community, and has anything changed? Has anything changed about the way you operate your business? Has anything woken up within you about who you hire or who you help or where you direct the funds for your business, or how you have changed, maybe through outreach programs or anything else in your community? Have you really stepped up with your customers? Have you, what have you observed that has really, really, shaken your business to its core? And I leave you with that because that's interesting. And that is something people want to hear about. They're going to not only relate to it, the news media might not, it may be the first time people hear your story, and it may be the first time they read about it in their local magazine or press, or hear it on their radio and go, gosh, that's me too. That's me too. Like I was experiencing that. So you never know what part of the story that people are sharing. It never hurts to try, guys. Local media is one of those things. Unless you're doing a cross-Canada campaign, and I tell this to my clients, I run an agency. I can do it for you with a snap of my fingers, but it's a perfect place to get your feet wet. You as coaches and service providers and leaders and experts are going to have to keep yourself top of mind. So all that local PR does is ask you to shift that thinking. Instead of so broad, I'm going to help everyone, bring it right back to your hometown. And how can you be seen as that go-to expert? And I promise, if you do it right, if you do it really well and you impress the people that you're helping to write the story, you're going to be on their list of people to call next time. You're going to be on their list when they ask, I'm doing a story on this. I wonder if you could offer perspective. Could you give a quote? Or do you have any clients that experience this? I'm doing a story here. Do you have any clients that you can offer me or stories to tell? I guarantee you that's what will start to happen. It does a lot. So that's basically it. I hope that you've had a really, maybe taken some notes and maybe had some insights as to how you can become your own homegrown kind of PR hero. And of course, as always, I'm going to be, I'm going to put my website, and it's just a really simple link called Book Call. Let me put that up for you so you can see it. And this summer, if you have any, if you're wondering about, if you're ready to start branching out in that way, is there a different way I can tell my story? Is there anything I can do to step myself up as that go-to expert? I need to start seeing as this. I want people to start seeing me this way. I'm ready. I have some good messages. I just don't know where to start. Please pick up the phone or email me, or just pick up this link and book a call. All the times are set out there, so my calendar is completely linked. I know we're coming into the summer. I, like you, will be taking certain days off. So my summer coaching schedule is pretty much, it's a little tighter. I run a little tighter ship, but always available to take calls, because if there's the right fit, I'll squeeze it in. If it's the right fit, we can do a lot in a very short time. So I really hope that some of you take advantage of that. Thank you so much. This is perfect. So 25 minutes is exactly what I wanted. And keep jumping on. Have a great weekend. Let's have some fun. Maybe you're treating last weekend as a holiday. Maybe it's this weekend, but have some fun. Enjoy that beautiful sunshine out there. And I hope to talk to you guys real soon. Take care.